Hey everyone, I am Artosis and welcome to the iHeartU.com King of the Hill. I will be casting today alone. This is kind of like a rushed cast. Right before I fly out for Berlin. Couldn't quite line things up. Kind of forgot to tell Doe about it. So, sorry about that everybody, but I'll do my best. So let's go ahead and take a look at who's going to be playing this week. Of course, Trump taking down Savages last week with some really convincing play. Just really kind of coming into his own now finally and constructed is Trump to take down Savages, someone who won 4 King of the Hills in a row against really strong opponents. It's very impressive. And he's going to be going up. His the first challenger for his new throne is going to be a player by the ID of Realz. Now, Realz isn't someone that's really famous or anything yet, but we're trying to spread this out a little bit and get other highly ranked players in to try them out, see how they can do against some of these more well-known pros. So let's go ahead and take a look at these decks. Now, of course, the patch hasn't come out quite yet, so we're going to be watching a Warlock deck against a Rogue deck. So let's take a look at the Rogue deck first here from Trump. Now, nothing too fancy, nothing too shiny here. A lot of card draw. He has 2 Gnomish Inventors in there, 2 Azure Drakes, and of course the Loot Hoarders and Novice Engineers. So this is like a pretty straightforward deck by Trump. And the one thing I definitely can say about this deck is that it's very consistent looking. I don't think it's possible for him to really get a very bad draw here. So should be able to have a pretty solid game no matter what with this deck. Now, let's take a look at what Realz is playing. And actually, this is an aggro Warlock. I just glanced over and saw Soulfire and it made me think of that. But this is actually a control Warlock, which is getting more and more popular and I think is going to continue to do so. Normally we call it Handlock, but let's take a look, see if there's anything fancy. And of course it's got all the Giants, Draxus, Alexstrasza. This is pretty standard. The Twilight Drakes, the Defenders, the Watchers, the Ironbeaks. Yeah, this is pretty much the list that almost everyone's playing right now. So a very solid, very strong deck, but if he doesn't get enough taunts out quick enough, if he doesn't remove the minions quick enough from Trump, then Trump should be able to overcome him. Who's going to end up winning this? Hard to say. I think I have to side just slightly with the Warlock deck here from Realz. But Trump is, or it seems to be, a player that has more experience. So, anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into game number 1. Alright, here we go. Down at the bottom for this whole series will be Trump, this time with that Rogue deck, giving the nice little greeting over to Realz. And let's take a look at these opening hands. Not the best opening hand for Realz. Not a whole lot to do with it, but with a couple Earthring Farseers and that Shadow Flame, he should be able to control the board for quite a while. Whereas with Trump, not a bad hand either. He has actually a very solid mana curve here. He has turn 2, 3, 4, and 5 drops. And of course that Deadly Poison, now the Harvest Golem to round that out. Now, for his opponent, of course, with Handlock, you're generally going to just draw a couple cards to start. Fill your hand up so your Twilight Drakes and Mountain Giants are a little bit more powerful if you get into them. And of course, you're going to have a lot of options that way. So Trump, in the meantime, just going to play minions out on the board. He needs to get as much out there to work with as he possibly can. Now Realz has to decide what to do, and it looks like he's going to drop an Earthen Ring Farseer. Can't really blame him for that. Get some board presence out there. How will Trump overcome this, though? I wouldn't be surprised if we see him throw down the Dark Iron to buff up that Novice Engineer. Of course, he could go for Shattered Sun Cleric on the Harvest Golem, but I kind of like the idea of throwing out the Dark Iron, to be perfectly honest. This is going to give him like a little bit of a beefier board and just slightly more damage this turn. But he's still thinking about it. Both of them are pretty reasonable turns. So Trump taking his time here. And there you go. He is going to go for that Novice buff. A really nice trade, especially since that already drew him a card. And now with a 4-4 and a 2-3 out, that is a lot of pressure on board. So now for Realz, he still has that coin. And it looks like he wants to go for Sylvanas, which oftentimes is a very nice play. Yeah, if he plays that coin, it has to be Sylvanas, I would say. And here, down comes the Sylvanas. Now, of course, this can be eliminated by attacking in with the Dark Iron Dwarf and then the Harvest Golem, and the 2 Death Rattles, the way that they trigger, will allow him to keep the Damage Golem. But trading this Sylvanas right now for a whole attacking turn and those 2 minions is pretty reasonable. So, pretty solid defense here from Trump, but Realz can't really be too upset about this. You know, we're up to 5 mana for his next turn, and he's at 28 life still. But Trump, he does have 5 mana here, has to decide how to use it. Does he drop something like Sylvanas? I don't think so. I think he's probably going to go Novice Engineer into Defias Ringleader, but we could see him Novice, see what he gets, and decide on that, or even throw on a Deadly Poison at this point. So Trump just trying to think over exactly what it is that he wants to do here. You know, it is actually very important. This is one of the cool things about Rogue. Rogue is a deck where you have so many different options about how to play it. There's so many different ways to play out the game and control the board, eliminate minions, build up your own board. It's hard to decide how to do it and which order to do it in. And for instance, right now, if he knew there was a Mortal Coil in his opponent's hand, I think for sure he'd play the Shattered Sun because he wants to avoid that easy card draw for 1 mana. Now, I would say he probably doesn't know that, so he has to decide not based upon that. Now, let's take a look. Novice Engineer, it looks like. Now, this was probably going to happen no matter what this whole time. Gets a Defender of Argus, not really needed this turn. Now, does he go Shattered Sun, does he go Defias, or does he go Weapon plus Deadly Poison? All of them are okay moves. You know, if he Shattered Suns that 2-1, that'll be playing against Mortal Coil. Of course, he hasn't seen Mortal Coil yet, so he doesn't know it's in there, but it's becoming a much more popular card recently in these Warlock control decks. So definitely could be something that he has in mind right now. Trump really taking his time here and thinking. What are you going to do, Trump? Don't leave me hanging, bro. And it looks like a Deadly Poison. You know, he does have 2 in hand, so to have that on there is not bad at all. And of course, he can throw the other one on, especially if an Ancient Watcher with Taunt comes out this turn, which could occur. Now, with Realz, he has a lot of different things he can do, but the Mortal Coil is going to be probably the best move that he can really think of here. To draw that extra card, Mortal Coil just absolutely amazing. Think of it like a half-cost hero ability that draws you a card. It's, you know, a lot of these hero abilities we just use to kill off 1 health minions, and that's kind of what it does. It's just a fantastic card. Probably 2 should be in just about every Warlock deck at this point. Now, it looks like he's thinking about possibly, we saw him go over that Sun Fury Protector. Could be going with Ancient Watcher with the Sun Fury Protector. It's not a bad move. Gives him a 5 health taunt. Of course, that can be removed by Trump very, very easily by throwing down his other Deadly Poison. And instead, he decides to draw a card in Ancient Watcher, which isn't a bad choice either. You know, with just a 1-2 out in the field, as well as a 3-attack dagger, there's nothing that scary out. So it looks like Trump wants to throw down the Azure Drake and draw a card here, see what he gets. Of course, he always could throw down the other poison, but I don't think he's going to do something like that here. I'd be kind of surprised if he goes ahead and does that. You know, it's turn 5. He's not going to kill his opponent before 9 mana, most likely. Especially with the hand he has. It's a very good hand. It's like very good cards in it. But I don't know. I don't see him really killing him by then. So it looks like he wants to go ahead and kill that off before a Defender of Argus comes down. You might ask yourself, why would he do that? Why doesn't he just wait and see if it gets taunt? Thing is, if that Defender of Argus comes down, he has to attack it, take an additional damage, and his little elf is going to get hurt. And of course, you have to know that there's always owls in these Warlock control decks, as Trump knows. So if, for instance, an owl came out, silenced the Ancient Watcher, and it attacked the Azure Drake, that would suck. So a very good move here from Trump. Now on Realz' side, his 5 mana. Let's take a look. What is he doing here? He does have that Shadow Bolt. I think that that's not a bad play at all. He may want to do something like Shadow Bolt plus his Earthen Ring Farseer. He might want to draw a card as well. Because still, there's not that much damage on the board, but you want to be careful about leaving Azure Drake out, because things can get out of hand very, very quickly. So, looks like he is going to go ahead and take that out. And that's going to leave him pretty darn short on mana. So, going to go ahead, pass that turn. And now Trump gets to decide what does he go for here. There's a lot of different options. He has 7 mana out on the board, a lot of cards that can be played. I feel like he should be saving Sylvanas, obviously, right now, as there are no minions on his opponent's side. Save that, perhaps, for when something big is played, like a Molten Giant. I would save that Defender of Argus as well, because you can go ahead and team that up with the Sylvanas on the same turn after turn 9 or 10. And that's going to allow you to really slow down the Warlock, unless they have a Silence in hand that's going to be a pain to get rid of in the late game when they already have their own big taunts out. So right now, Trump kind of going over things. Argent Commander wouldn't be too bad. Of course, he could go for something such as Shattered Sun Cleric and Defias Ringleader. You know, the Argent is kind of like a surprise charge attack, so sometimes people like to save those a bit later. And it's not 100% mana efficient, but I feel like it's not a bad move here because it would be a pain to get rid of. You have to hit it with 2 things always to get rid of it because of that Divine Shield. And that, well, you know, you might want to get out the Defias Ringleader as well. The thing is, if he commits heavily with a bunch of low health minions, such as Shattered Sun Cleric and Defias Ringleader, a Hellfire is very likely to come out. And with this many cards already drawn by Realz, you gotta suspect that they're gonna have a Hellfire in hand by now. And if you lose both those cards plus your little Novice to that one Hellfire spell, then the Warlock has bought himself a lot of time. So it looks like Trump is considering putting out Sylvanas. Maybe Sylvanas plus Defias Ringleader. Of course, if you do put that Sylvanas out, then, you know, one thing I love when I play a control deck is when my opponent plays the Sylvanas when I have nothing on board, because it oftentimes with a control deck, you're not going to use minions to clear the board quite as much, and you're going to have a lot more spells to be able to clear the board with, so that's always fun. But it looks like he does choose that Argent, and for me, that was the best play this turn for Trump. He's got a pretty solid board presence out there. He's got a very high attack dagger, and it's kind of hard for his opponent to take care of this. Like right now on the board, there's 10 damage staring him down, so he has to be careful about that. And with a Rogue coming up to 8 mana, he absolutely could, potentially at least, deal lethal next turn. That's, of course, if no taunts or anything like that comes out. So the Iron Beak looks like he's probably going to come out and silence that Divine Shield. He may go ahead and Shadow Flame him as well. That would knock them both out. Not a bad move. So 2 cards to take that out, and also gets the Imp. Or rather, not the Imp, the the Novice Engineer, so that's nice. And after playing that, Trump is going to feel a little bit more safe to commit some more minions to the board, of course, because, you know, a lot of the AoE has been used up. Generally speaking, people use 1 Shadow Flame and 2 Hellfires. So it looks like that's what he wants to commit for now. Doesn't decide to play Shattered Sun Cleric here. Looks like he wants to save that for a bit. He may be saving that to do something like buff up Defender of Argus and make a big board that's like Hellfire proof, something like that. Right now on Realz' side, still at that kind of dangerous life total. I know it's crazy to say 18 is dangerous, but hell, you all play Hearthstone or watch Hearthstone, so you know how quickly damage can come out when you get a lot of mana. Realz trying to figure out what does he do here. Thing is, the health is just high enough that these Moltens can't just pop out of his hand and get taunted up. So that's like a really, really nice move from Trump to kind of play around that. Like, for instance, if he had attacked with his dagger, which obviously he's not going to do, he's not a scrub, this would be like a very hard turn for him to come back from, because the Moltens could come out, they could be taunted up. But at the top level, players play around things like Molten Giants. He obviously knows it's in there, and looks like the Defender of Argus is going to come down, give him a 4/4 taunt. Now that's going to be easy for Trump to take out. He can use his dagger, he can use a couple minions. I suspect he'll use the dagger, but oh, well, now he's got the SI-7 AG. He, of course, has Eviscerate in his hand as well. I feel like maybe a Shattered Sun Cleric, buffing the little Defias buddy, and Eviscerate that. Maybe take out the 3/3 and maybe attack for 4. I feel like using that dagger right now may be the wrong time. It's 5 damage instead of 4, and that does make a difference. For instance, it does take out another Ancient Watcher. It brings it a little bit closer into range if he has to attack a giant or something like that. Like, for instance, a giant with a Defender of Argus. It takes one swipe from that plus an Eviscerate. So Trump right now just kind of calculating. You know, it does take a while to make your decisions as Rogue. And that's actually one of the kind of nice things about, you know, when you're actually going one-on-one against a player in a custom match, that there isn't actually a time limit, and you can both really think through your moves and make the best move. You know, there's definitely been turns in Hearthstone, I'm sure for a lot of people, when you're playing a deck with a lot of decisions like this, where you're having a hard time actually deciding what to do. And, Trump decides to use the dagger there. So it looks like he wants to go ahead, probably buff that up to trade with the Argus. And that, of course, is going to draw him a card. Of course, that's going to be a better one than the Defias Buddy, as I was saying before. And very, very nice draw there. That's going to completely utilize his mana for this turn and give him a nice 8 points of damage. But this is going to allow him to play some Molten Giants if he wants, if he attacks all this. And in fact, you can see Trump's actually thinking about this. How much mana is he, or rather, how much health does he bring him down to? And by bringing him down to 15, that definitely makes it a lot harder for Realz to play his minions, but one thing he could do is life tap and then play both, because that's going to remove 5 mana from each. That would bring him up to 6, and then you have 3 left over, so a Sun Fury Protector would work out. And Trump just passes the turn there, so he's trying to set up a more lethal turn here, and he definitely has it for next turn. So we're going to have to see something a little bit fancy here, something like a Hellfire into 2 Molten Giants into a Soulfire. That would be a really, really nice move right now. And he could even perhaps Sun Fury. So let's take a look. Alright, and gonna drop both Giants. Or I guess I miscalculated that mana just slightly, sorry. Okay, so that was definitely what we would call a misplay here. Yeah, that wasted a little bit extra of his mana from Realz, so definitely a mistake here, but it would have discarded this Sun Fury Protector anyway, so at the end of the day, it doesn't actually end up making a difference, but still something that would be a little bit frustrating for sure. And that's a good move. That's what we were talking about before, where if you taunt up that Sylvanas, when these giants come down, suddenly it becomes a really gross situation. Now, what do you do here exactly? Because there's basically lethal for Trump right now. If you look at this, he has 9 on board. And even if he kills off that Sylvanas, there's still a lot. Now, I think what you do is probably you attack Sylvanas, and then Siphon Soul the giant that he seals. Trying to think of what else you could do here, but nothing that good is coming to mind. At the same time, there's Eviscerate, Backstab, and SI7 Agent out, so that's a little bit rough.
So many.
Or rather, that's in Trump's hand, so that's still a lot of damage. That's 6 plus his dagger that he can do, so that's 7 damage that we see right now for Trump. By Realz' mana bar, it looks like he was considering life tapping here.
So
I'm not sure what he would be looking for in a life tap. I'm trying to think, and like maybe... Wait, did he use both owls? I want to say he did, but I don't know. It's hard to cast alone. Remember everything that's going on. And no, you don't Siphon Soul first for sure. I would definitely say attack with Giant, Siphon Soul, the giant that gets stolen. Hopefully it was the giant that got attacked, and then you can clear his Argus out as well. Keep yourself at a much more respectable life total of 13 as opposed to 10. That'd be the lucky man's move. Does decide to life tap. Oh, wow! He draws that owl. Amazing, amazing draw here. And this is going to allow him to Siphon Soul it as well. Wow, that is... Oh, wait, never mind. He actually just has enough damage with that Soulfire. Well, that was a pretty sick top deck, so looks like Realz is going to take game number 1 against Trump. Okay, so Realz takes game number 1. Now, of course, he drew a lot of cards. He knew there was a decent chance that he could draw something to help him out there, and that was an instant win, whereas even if he didn't get that, he still probably lives through the next turn and still has some sort of chance. to end up winning the game, but a little bit of luck there. Trump, though, always the man or guy, doesn't look like he's too frustrated, and in fact, he's going to pull out a Druid deck now. Now, let's take a look at exactly which Druid deck this is. This looks like a slight modification on one of Strifecrow's new Druid decks. See, it has that Deathwing, which is something that Strifecrow's added relatively recently. It's got all the big baddies that you would imagine you'd see. A couple Ancient of Lores, of course, Rag, Cenarius, the Black Knight, very popular guy at the moment, Karn as well. It's got that single Starfall that it seems like every Druid on the Earth is running. And Earthen Ring Farseer still has the Wild Pyromancers in there as well. And this is a very, very solid deck. Definitely one that can deal with the early pressure. And when you get to the end game, it's extremely scary. But the end game for Warlock Control is very scary as well, because you have all of those giants. You have 4 giants. You have Alexstrasza that's the same size as a giant. And then, of course, you have Draxus that makes mini giants for its hero power. So all that mixed in with Sylvanas and a couple Siphon Souls means that there is a lot that this Warlock deck can do. And in fact, if I take a look at both, you know, it definitely could go either way. I really like Deathwing versus Warlock decks like this, because a lot of times they play out there and they're like, all right, I've got all these Molten Giants, and if you're keeping track of their Siphon Souls, how many cards they have in hand and stuff like that, it's been a close game, maybe the Deathwing is the winning card for you. So I guess we're just going to have to jump into this game and see, but if I had to say, I think I have to side slightly with the Warlock Control here as well. I think that in Control versus Control, the Warlock Control simply draws too many cards for other control decks to keep up on a regular basis. But anything could happen here. Trump is a great player, and so let's go ahead and get into the game number 2. Once again, down at the bottom is Trump, this time with a Druid deck. We'll see how he can do against Realz. Taking a look at the hands, this is actually a very nice hand for Trump, with the Harvest Golem and Innervate and a Karn Bloodhoof and the Coin and a Tinkmaster Overspark. This is a fantastic hand to have against another control deck, and it looks like he's saving that Innervate for a quick Karn Bloodhoof. Cannot blame him. Great choice there. Whereas we look at Realz' hand, and well, with Warlock Control, you don't care as much about your opening hand against a Druid deck because you have all the time in the world to draw everything you need, especially with all those life taps. So this one should actually be a really nice game. He's got some good spells in there to help him out. And we'll see. A nice coin for that Harvest Golem. Get him out. Probably a turn 3 Harvest Golem as well. So get some early pressure on. Try to force Realz to do something to react. And then throw down Karn Bloodhoof on turn 4. It's like a really, really nice hand from Trump. So let's take a look and see what his opponent's going to do here. Because already you look at that board and you're like, oh, that's just kind of annoying to deal with. And it looks like a Twilight Drake going to come out. And that's going to help him to clean this all up over time. But I don't think Trump cares about that too much right now. I would say just throw down your Karn Bloodhoof and let him do as he will, because you can definitely eliminate that Drake very, very quickly. He's going to continue attacking. And here we go. Karn Bloodhoof. That is such a great turn 4. One of the best turn 4s you can really have as Druid, with a single Innervate, of course. Now, let's take a look in Realz' hand. That's an annoying card to deal with, of course, because you gotta look at what you have here. In his hand, like, with the 2 Harvest Golems out, the Sylvanas is not going to be all that useful. Of course, you can silence it with the Owl. I'd be kind of surprised if he didn't end up doing something like that. But of course, you silence the Owl, then you've spent 1 card already silencing it, and basically the Drake is going to have to somewhat trade with it. And in fact, if he attacks it, yeah, it probably end up being a trade with it. So that's still 2 for 1 for Karn Bloodhoof. So that's pretty solid. And of course, the Owl will die right away to one of these golems. So right now, Realz is trying to figure out what does he do in this situation. Of course, at 5 mana, you can't quite Siphon Soul yet. He could do something like a Hellfire, but that does hurt his Drake as well. Bring down to 6 health, and if he attacked into one of the golems, he dies to the Karn Bloodhoof. So doesn't want to do something like that. I think for sure that Ironbeak is what he's really going over in his mind. Is that what he wants to use right now? The best play in the whole world, I feel like, would be something like an Argus. If he had a Defender of Argus, he could just knock that Bloodhoof on his ass for a minute and make him, you know, still have a lot of health, have it be a taunt and all that. Really, the Drake would be worth a lot in that situation. Does decide to go ahead and take that out. The single golem. Ah, Mortal Coil. Good play. What's he get here? Alright, and just drops another Drake. So, pretty solid here. Now, let's take a look at Trump's hand. You know, Trump's beginning was so nice, but the double Drake is pretty scary. We don't have any Keeper of the Groves yet, so that's kind of an issue. And he decides to... Huh? He's deciding right now, he's trying to figure out, does he try to do something fancy with this? But no, if you look at the map, the 7 health on that one Drake stops anything bad from happening to it this turn. Maximum damage you could dealt out there was 6. But still, this is not the greatest situation for Trump, just because it's going to be hard for him to kill off his own Sylvanas. And then, of course, it gets silenced. Very, very annoying. It's a good thing he saved that that owl there. And that is exactly what you want to see here. Now these guys can easily start trading with everything. With that 5 attack, that's like the magic number right here against this Druid deck. A lot of these minions having that 5 health. Of course, the Ancient of Lore, Sylvanas, Karn, the Black Knight. And sometimes a Novice Engineer that gets Dinosaur. Of course, that can happen as well. So right now, at 0 mana, he's just trying to decide what does he attack into here. Does he start trading with Karn? Does he... Because right now, like, he can kill off either Karn or Sylvanas and half of Karn, or maybe half the Golem. There's several different things that he can do here with this attack, or he could even attack the Druid, but probably not the best play, especially since just about everyone plays Black Knight right now. You really want to get as much value as possible out of these Drakes, I would say. So what's he going to do with the second Drake? Just fly right on through? Okay, so that one will probably get Black Knighted. And, well, silences are always very nice against this, but I would definitely go with... Yeah, I think I would definitely go with the Black Knight. Even though you know later on there's going to be taunted Giants, I think just getting that kill off is really, really nice. And the thing is, he can trade both the Death Rattles on his cards to kill the other one as well. Oh, well. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and silence that. He's going to perhaps use his hero power to knock that out. See, for me, this is just, I guess, a difference in playstyles a little bit, but for me personally, I look at it and think, well, Black Knight, if you play him out here, that's a 4/5 on the board. With I like to keep Keeper of Groves personally, but this still gives him a good board position. He's knocked out 2 of the Drakes. He has traded both of his Death Rattles. It's just the difference between having the Black Knight for later on, or having the Keeper for later on. And the Black Knight definitely can be a big swing play later if we do see a big taunted Giant in the late game. So looking at Realz' hand right now, mostly just removal. And oh boy, does he have a lot of removal. You know, that Owl, probably not long for this world, so he's going to want to trade that with something. Whether it's going to be Shadow Bolt plus Owl to kill off Karn, or possibly just trade the Owl with that Golem. Both those are pretty solid moves. We'll see, he's still deciding at the moment. Has 7 mana. Well, he could knock out, clear the whole board with 2 attacks in and using Hellfire. Not sure that's exactly what he wants to do here, though. Of course, he does have the Siphon Soul, but I think for sure you save that for later on when they have really, really big guys. Oh, and it looks like he wants to clear the entire board. Okay, so the 2 attack ins plus the Hellfire, and that's gonna clean everything up very nicely. Throw down that Earthen Ring as well to recover some of his health. Of course, 7 mana Druids probably aren't going to kill you when you're at 14 health. And that's a nice draw right there. When it's a basically empty board, Ancient of Lore, one of the best cards that you can possibly play. Now he has that 5/5 out that even if that gets taken out, it's already drawn him 2 cards, so it's very, very valuable indeed. So a life tap, and looks like he wants to play his giant. And now this, it looks like the Sun Fury is probably going to come out here, I would have to say. If it does come out, I think it'll come out only on the giant, though. He doesn't want to let his Earthen Ring go down too easily. Now let's see here. Of course, he could do something like Shadow Bolt plus Earthen Ring to get rid of this 5/5. He's got to do something, though. He can't let it attack him for 5, because that's when you actually start getting too low as Warlock. He can't quite afford Siphon Soul. And I believe that was a Shadow Bolt, right? And there you go. So he'll go ahead and trade 2 cards for that. So that was pretty solid for Trump, actually. That guy that drew 2 cards, it took 2 cards for his opponent to get rid of. Now we do have this giant out here, but it doesn't have that taunt, which is kind of an issue. Now it looks like Trump just wants to draw a little bit. And he might go for a little clear here. If he goes... no, well, it doesn't look like he quite has a clear. So, definitely could use a Tink Master here eventually. Might want to just draw another card. Let's see. Okay, so it is the 5/5. That's, you know, we all know how the Tink Master rolls. Just going to draw another card now. What he was hoping was that would be a 1/1. And... well, of course he was hoping that, but that's why he drew the card afterwards, because he wanted to go ahead and kill off the 1/1 with a hero power, but it didn't work out this time. Wasn't really anything that he could have drawn to deal with it better than the Tink Master anyways. So at least it's a 5/5 and not an 8/8. That's definitely much better for him. Now, still at 12 health, Realz in a pretty good spot. Has that Taunter out still. Has Sylvanas in hand. A lot of minion removal as well, and that Earthen Ring Farseer to gain some additional life. So Trump's still doing pretty well. Now, he has to be careful not to get too low, because there is a Ragnaros in his opponent's hand. And of course, with Claw and Swipe, that's a solid 7 direct damage that he can deal out. So a taunt is definitely something he's going to want to consider. Perhaps Earthen Ring Farseer as well. Like, do you taunt up a Sylvanas? Do you taunt up an Earthen Ring Farseer? Could do either of this situation, because he does have 9 mana. Of course, you're not going to want to really use any of your removal on these 2/2s or 1/1s. Okay, does decide to life tap. Pulls out Alexstrasza. Now, of course, Alexstrasza, that's probably something he's going to be planning on using on himself next turn, I would say. But for now, he just needs to set up a solid defense. And I would say the solid defense here, yeah, the Sylvanas not bad because it does have so much health.
I have no time for games.
And gonna go ahead and give double taunt here. Now, with the Black Knight,
Shields up.
this is kind of a funny situation. What do you do here? I would say you probably... See, now what really kind of sucks about this is... Well, you know what? With Blood Mage Thalnos, he can actually clear stuff pretty darn well here. Because he does get that those additional damages out of Swipe. He does have a Wrath on board as well. Yeah, I would say definitely Trump can clear the board here relatively easily. Although once he clears that board, the next turn for Realz is going to be Realzy scary because of Alexstrasza. Going to be able to heal him up a little bit and have that 8/8 on board. So, for instance, he could attack all 4 of these minions, or rather, sorry, all 3 of these minions into something, and then swipe the other 5/5, and then Wrath, and then he could even Hero Power to take out the Sun Fury Protector. He could do some wild Pyromancer tricks. I don't see a real reason to do that, because that would just kind of allow something to be stolen by Sylvanas. But I would definitely consider, like, attack all 3 of my minions into Sylvanas, swipe the other guy, and then Wrath them to draw a card, and then Hero Power to kill the other one. But probably do the Wrath to draw a card first if that's what he's decided on, because, of course, you want to draw your cards first. Trump, though, still mathing it all out, of course. It's easy to sit back as a commentator and look at this while they give you time and just kind of look at the entire board and what's going on, whereas as a player, there's a lot more pressure on you. You're You're looking at it, trying to figure out, okay, you know, is this the best move? What have I seen? What else do I expect? Do I need to be scared about next turn? My life is getting a bit lower. And of course, the options in his hand are getting a bit lower as well. Okay, and looks like he's going to do exactly what I was saying right there. And draws Ancient of Lore, and that'll be fine for next turn. Ooh. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he's just doing a different order. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the way I thought. But yes, this is exactly the same thing, basically. And is he going to claw to get rid of this other guy? I think it's not a bad play. Maybe even claw and then Wild Pyromancer, just to have some sort of board presence out there, because his opponent is only at 9 health. Yep, and looks like Trump's going to do exactly that. So, very, very solid turn from Trump, but Realz prevented himself from taking a bunch of damage that turn, which is exactly what he wanted to do, so that he could go ahead and drop the Alexstrasza. Now, he should be soul firing as well here, just to get rid of that 3-2. He doesn't want to be taking any additional damage this turn, if possible. And of course, with that out there, it'd be a lot easier to kill off Alexstrasza as well. Now, he does lose his Siphon Soul, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. Now, here, looking at this, I would say Ragnaros is not a bad call. Maybe a Ragnaros hero ability? Yeah, I kind of like that, because Rag could just kill the Alexstrasza, or even if it hits his opponent, then, especially since he saw a Siphon Soul get discarded, there's no way to really know that there's another Siphon Soul out there. So, or in the hand. Okay, so he does hit his opponent. Now, I'm sure the Siphon Soul is going to be coming down for sure. Now, this is not a kill this turn, but this is a lot of damage, no doubt. 8 right there, and then, of course, he does have the Soulfire for some more. And I think dropping... Yeah, first you want to drop the heal, for sure. Very, very solid play. And save the Soulfire right for the end, I would say as well. No reason to throw that out there right now. 13 damage, that's going to be a tall order. And, uh-oh. This looks like Trump is just straight up dead. He probably will attack his Blood Mage Thalnos, even though he kind of wants that extra hero, or that extra spell power, to try to help out with Starfall, perhaps, or something else he draws. He needs to draw the card, because looking at the hand right now, he's basically dead. Yeah, for sure. Because, like, he could Starfall plus attack, but that's only 7. So that's not enough. Ancient of Lore, drawing cards, or gaining health, neither of those are enough, because he doesn't have enough mana to do anything else. So he actually just has to attack Blood Mage Thalnos into something here. And I would say... Which, well... Maybe into the 3-2, hoping to draw a claw or something? Oh, ew. I mean, that's 11. Oh, okay. 3 damage to all enemy minions. Okay, this actually makes a lot of sense then. Because I sometimes... Anyways, he's put himself out of what he thinks is depth range, but unfortunately, there is a Soulfire. And that is going to spell GG. And wow, Realz taking 2 games in a row off our defending champion. So, Trump going down 0-2 so far. Now, this is a best of 7, so he has to lose 2 more decks to actually be eliminated as King of the Hill. Which, if he does get eliminated, that still makes Savages the only player that got more than 1 win in a row. But let's see. This time, Trump is pulling out an extremely aggressive deck. And this is a deck that we've seen, not exactly this version from him, but we've seen him play various versions of Aggro Warlock time and time again. And this is a very strong one if we take a look at it. It looks extremely solid. He's got the double Knife Juggler, he's got the King Mukla. Does he have any silences in here? Let me take a look. Doesn't look like it. But he does have that one Hellfire, and he does have the Black Knight. So the Black Knight definitely is a card that could be very clutch in this deck. Of course, Sylvanas is definitely a very powerful one. The Hellfire, not probably going to be very useful for him. It looks, that's like more of a mirror matchup card, or just against other aggro decks. So the Hellfire probably not going to be the best draw. Probably going to want to avoid getting that. But I would say in this matchup, Warlock against Warlock, when it's control against aggro, a lot of it can come down to the early draw. But the aggro Warlock has to be careful how many cards they draw, because they're hitting their own life total. They're almost doing work for the aggro Warlock. They're going to want to get down as many taunts as quickly as possible. And if possible, switch into aggro mode. So I guess we're just going to go ahead, jump in this game, and see if Trump can start a comeback. Okay, so once again, Trump down at the bottom, playing the aggro Warlock against the control Warlock of Realz up at the top. Now, looking at these hands real quick, not the best hand for Trump, I do have to say. It's very nice to start out with the Flame Imp, of course, and this is going to be a nice play by giving that the +1 health with this Priestess. But his opponent here, Realz, he has Soulfire, he has Shadow Bolt, he has Hellfire. Oh god, and he... that's a little bit painful. Now, does he Soulfire as well? We'll see in just a second here. I think he's just considering it for a moment. And I might skip that because I don't want to lose my Hellfire. You know, his hand is really, really solid. Like this is one of the better hands that you can get in this situation. Now, Trump going to go ahead, just draw an extra card. Trump is actually very, very good with aggro Warlock. I played against his aggro Warlock many times, and he really does know how to play it. So, you know, he'll slow himself down and not overcommit and stuff. So we'll see if that works out for him, because there's so much removal here. And the Shadow Bolt comes out, gets rid of that 3/3 Flame Imp. And now Trump is sitting here on a kind of naked board. But King Mukla is going to be a great play here, as the bananas are just kind of clog up Realz' hand a bit. Now, they do add hand size, which can be an issue for sure. And this Twilight Drake is going to have a lot more health because of it, and he's going to be able to banana him next turn and kill off that King Mukla. But you can't blame Trump for playing it. That was pretty solid. So we're going to see the Argent Squire, and I think we'll see Shattered Sun Cleric as well. I feel like throwing that on Mukla will be good, because then he may be able to utilize his Mortal Coils, get a little bit more damage in here on that Drake when it does come back at him. He has to be expecting that to be the case. And let's see from Realz. I feel like right here, ooh, Banana plus Defender is like really insanely good. Banana plus Defender will kill off Mukla and give him a gigantic taunt. Like I said, he'll only have like 4 health, but still. That would be a very solid move for him. Of course, he could do things here, such as a Silence. He could use Hellfire, technically, I guess, which would allow him to combo out the King Mukla, and also take the shield off and kill off the 3/2. Yeah, I think getting the better board position might be best, though. Banana Defender Vargas, I stand by it. The more I look at it, the more it feels like that would be a great play here. But we'll see from Realz. He wants to keep his life total as high as possible. Now, looking at Trump's hand, that Argent Commander would be so useful if it was 5 mana, but the fact that he can't play it next turn makes it kind of dead in his hand at this moment. Of course, he does have 2 Mortal Coils, so he could utilize those, depending on exactly how this goes down, exactly how the damage comes out from Realz. Realz, for certain, though, will be trying to take care of this. If that Mukla hits him again, he'll probably consider the game pretty much over. He can't be taken that much that quickly. Oh, interesting. Alright, so it looks like he wants to just clear the entire board here. Hellfire does go down, and of course he'll be using his Soulfire as well. And what does it get rid of? It gets rid of Earthring Farseer, and he just goes ahead and throws a banana onto this Drake. So that was a very solid turn. Of course, he loses the Earthring, which kind of sucks, but the rest of his hand is very strong as well. And optimally, he would have lost a banana, but what are you going to do? Okay, so this was a misplay by Trump. He was acting a little bit too fast, dropped that Flame Imp before the Night Juggler. That's 1 point of damage difference, which of course can make a gigantic difference in this game. Now, let's take a look for Realz. He's got a lot of options here. I think obviously he's going to want to take out this Knife Juggler no matter what. Throwing down a taunt wouldn't be too bad. Throwing down a banana wouldn't be too bad.
So many possibilities.
Whereas Trump, this next turn at least, even if all that happens, he's going to have an Argent Commander out. And with the Argent Commander, obviously, he can go ahead and knock through the Drake if it does get taunt. That can allow him to deliver some more damage if he likes, or perhaps trade with the Defender if that was played, which I really suspect the Defender is going to be played this turn. It's just kind of good mana efficiency. There is a possibility he just draws a card and uses the Sun Fury Protector. If he does use that Sun Fury, I do expect a card to be drawn most likely. Unless he wants double taunt. That definitely could be something that he does here.
Shields up.
Just throw this down, then you have a 3/4 taunt as well as a 6/6 taunt. Alright, so this one's pretty solid as well. This way, most likely, there's no real damage coming through. Oh, and he actually just decides to attack, realizing how low Trump's health is after all these card draws, the Hellfire, etc. So looking at Trump's hand here, not the greatest of situations. Of course, he can trade with both taunts this turn. Not the best knife either, but it doesn't really matter. So he's going to have to trade with everything here. There's just no other choice, and that's going to leave a 3/3 out on that board. And of course that 3/3 can easily trade. Or he could make it a 5/5 and attack. that looks like something that definitely could be likely. And if he does that, it'll bring Trump down to 6 health, which means he can barely even draw cards anymore. And of course it would have taunt, so he'd have to run into it and use a Mortal Coil. But then Trump would be left at very low health. And let's see. What do you want to do here, Realz? 16 health. You have to be careful. That many cards in Trump's hand. You have to count out every possibility. You know, Soulfires, Power Overwhelmings, Leroy, of course. It could be fatal if he doesn't get any taunts out this turn. So still thinking, just going over all of his options. And looks like he just wants to trade here. Does make me, I guess not really nervous, but it's just if there was like some sort of crazy Leroy power type of situation, which sometimes happens, that would suck. But you can't just count on that and play scared your life either. Probably throw the banana out as well. No reason not to banana here. It's just mana efficient. Doesn't really need cards in his hand right now. Mountain Giants aren't going to win this game for him. Okay, so Sylvanas, not the best draw. He's looking at 5 damage. What do you do here? Yeah, this is not a great hand for Trump. I'm trying to figure out what he should do. He may want to life tap. Because if he doesn't kill this Drake, it's kind of a bad thing. The thing is, with 5 mana left, what can he really life tap into?
I have no time for games.
Okay, so he decides to go Sylvanas. And he's just kind of hoping for this turn. The thing is, there's an Owl out. Oh god, there's a Shadow Flame now as well. Oh boy. And even the life tap coming out from Realz. So there's a lot of options. Owl Defender isn't bad. Shadow Flame is always a very useful card. Trump almost out of options. He's got to steal something good with the Sylvanas, I would say. 14 health is a little bit of a reach for him with his hand. Those double Mortal Coils really showing how worthless they can be against a deck like this. Okay, so he drops the 8/8 and the 2/1. Now, the Mortal Coil can go off, but... Well, I think for sure, of course, he's going to go ahead and Mortal Coil. He might even double Mortal Coil, but even if he doubles, he's like literally looking for an Argent. Now, Voidwalker isn't a bad draw, because that can perhaps keep him alive a little bit longer. And you probably go Voidwalker plus, like, Dark Iron, I would say, plus your Argent. Yeah, that's what I would have to go with here. Yeah, that's a pretty good usage of 6 mana. The Voidwalker is going to hopefully keep him alive. The Argent Squire with the Divine Shield can take that +2 attack from Dark Iron Dwarf and give him 7 damage possibly to play around with next turn. That's if Realz doesn't mess with his board position at all. Other than, of course, attacking into the taunt.
The light protects me.
And with 7 damage on board, plus the Soulfire, that does give, that's a lot of damage. That's 11 damage. He definitely could just top deck or life tap into an answer to win this game. Ooh, Shadow Bolt. Not a bad draw. I think Shadow Bolt, attacking, alright, Shadow Bolt, the Dark Iron, attack into the taunt, and Defender Vargas your Giant is like insanely nice here. It's going to keep him alive. It's basically erasing the board for his opponent once again. Let's take a look. And yeah, it's really looking like that's what he's going to do. May in fact life tap. You know, he tries to life tap as much as possible, of course. And there's that Defender. So that is 8 health he has to get rid of, which kind of sucks, because if it was 7, no problem. It gets taken care of immediately. But with that Defender of Argus as opposed to like a Sun Fury Protector, it really makes a lot more problems for Trump. He might actually want to play out Voidwalker and then Soulfire the Defender of Argus. Oh, okay, I really like this move. Unfortunately, this isn't going to do all that much, because there is that Siphon Soul in the way. Now, Trump's trying to figure this out a little bit. Does he attack into this Giant? Does he risk being cleared up by Soulfire? At 9 health right here. He, like, literally is counting on no minion removal out on the board. Or rather, not on the board, but in Realz' hand. I'm trying to calculate here with Trump what is the best play, because getting that Giant down to 1 health is obviously not good enough. Killing off the Defender might be the right choice here. Because if his opponent has, like, let's say a Mortal Coil, well, did he use his Mortal Coils? No, he hasn't used them yet, so something like that could be an issue. Shadow Flame obviously could be and probably will be an issue. The Siphon Soul. Looking at the hand of Realz, of course, we already know he can't lose, but just some stuff that's going through Trump's mind right now. He's really trying to stretch his imagination to see if there's some creative combination here, but the thing is, there's not that many combinations of things he can actually do. Yeah. I think it's sinking in for Trump right now that most likely with 3 cards in hand and a possible life tap at 10 mana, the odds of him living through this next turn are slim to none. Of course, if he does live through it, there's always the possibility that he can win this game. But that he'd need like 2 more turns to do it, basically, because he'd have to use the Soulfire to eliminate the Mountain Giant this next turn. And then he'd have to get rid of that Defender as well. Oh, I love it. Real's wondering what's taken so long, and Trump's like, do you have removal here? Well, the thing is, even if, I mean, if he has removal or not, I think, Trump with the oh darn, realizing that this is a bad situation. He's going to go down 0-3 against Realz. Trying to make it as hard as possible as on poor Artosis, trying to solo cast this right now. And come on, Trump. You can do it. Pass the turn. End turn button. Dying here. Alright, so he is going to go ahead and hit this. Trying to call the bluff of the Siphon Soul. Unfortunately, it's just going to hit. And here we go. And that is game. That's going to be a GG. It even has that Soulfire in hand in case he had more health. And that is going to be a 3-0 right now for Realz. Okay, well, after that excruciatingly long last turn, Trump is down to his last deck. Right now, Realz is up 3-0 with this very powerful Warlock control deck that he's playing very, very well, making great decisions. And what he's going to be playing against here looks like here. Let me take a look at this deck real quick. This is a version of Warrior Control, a deck that's starting to gain some popularity. Myri made a very good version of it recently. There's been a lot of OTK decks out there too, and this has OTKs in it, one-turn kills, of course, for those of you that don't know what that means. The combination of Alexstrasza, Gorehowl, and the Charge card all at once does provide lethal damage if your opponent has, obviously, no minions in the way with Taunt, and also doesn't have armor. But this is more than just that combo. This has a lot of controlling elements, a lot of minion removal in here, and plenty of other minions so that you don't have to kill with that. He's got Karn, Sylvanas, Rag, Sarah. There's plenty of other stuff in here, even a couple of Twilight Drakes. So a very strong deck indeed, definitely one that I've played around with a lot as well. And it's absolutely a deck that can beat Warlock Control. Warrior Control is one of the better control decks in Control versus Control. But sometimes it gets hard. You have to, I feel like if the Warlock Control is played very well and doesn't get screwed on its draws, you're going to have to hit a reasonable brawl at some point where you get rid of a couple of their big minions. Which definitely that situation can and does arise. So if he can get that brawl and hold on to it, I think he can definitely take this game. If not, he's going to need to, he only has one execute in here. The Shield Slam should be able to take out some giants, as long as mountain giants don't come down on turn 4 or 5. Then he's going to have a good time. But if mountain giants come out that quickly, or even Twilight Drakes, which start getting rid of your armor very quickly, so that Shield Slam doesn't work as well, it could become a lot harder for Trump. So let's go ahead and see, can Trump do a full reverse all kill with Warrior Control? We'll see in a moment. Okay, here we go. This is Trump's last chance. Taking a look at his hand, not a bad one. He's got that Gadgetzan in hand, and that can definitely swing games into the favor of the Warrior players. Sorry, my brain went away while I was reading what they were saying. Realz was a little bit worried about Trump there. There are bugs where you pass the turn and it doesn't work out. This is still in the beta. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this Novice Engineer. Pretty standard. And as far as Realz goes, let's take a look at his hand real quick. It's actually a pretty decent hand. He's got the Twilight Drake out, so next turn he's going to be able to play a very large Twilight Drake. He has an Ancient Watcher in hand, so he can give that taunt rather easily. The thing is, that's not the most useful card against Warrior Control. It's nice to make them taunts, though, because it's more stuff that Warrior Control has to go through, and they have a limited number of removal spells, which means that it's going to put things like Rag on overtime. Rag, Sarah, Twilights, they're really going to have to be worth their weight in gold against like a ton of taunts. So Trump right now just trying to consider what to do. He's trying to think, what I believe here is, does he Twilight Drake with the coin? I think the answer is absolutely yes. That 1 health doesn't matter as much on the Twilight Drake. 7 health is, believe it or not, enough. And that's going to allow him to get out more pressure more quickly. So, here's kind of an interesting situation. He has the Owl out where he can make that Drake a lot weaker, or he could throw it on Ancient Watcher, give it taunt. I don't think that's the best play, but if he does silence the Drake, what does he do from there? Because he doesn't have the mana to go ahead and Shadow Bolt or anything like that. I would say consider putting out your own Drake possibly, but with the type of removal spells in Trump's deck, definitely something that could be taken care of. So let's take a look here. Alright, it becomes a 4/9, obviously bigger because he's playing Handlock. And as far as Trump goes, I don't see anything he'd really want to do against it. I would say probably here. Of course, you could Enrage it. Enrage very good on Twilight Drakes. But probably just attack your opponent and armor up. He's going to be dealing 2 damage to you a turn, basically, if you're armoring. He can't really kill your Drake that easily. Of course, we can see that he does have Shadow Bolt in hand, so he definitely could end up killing it next turn if he likes. Gets an Execute. That's definitely something you can use here by attacking in with the Novice Engineer and executing. But, as I said, with only 1 Execute in this deck, you oftentimes want to save it for a Giant. Like, later on, Whirlwind Execute or Inner Rage Execute, something like that, to take care of something a lot more scary than just a measly 4/9 Drake. But it decides to take it out, and that's completely fine, because that's going to keep his Drake alive a lot longer. He knows that at 7 health, you know, having a Drake on the board for his opponent means that this can die rather easily, because 4 plus 3 equals 7. Oh wow, that was not the best way to say that, but you know what I mean. But Hellfire, Shadow Bolt, Soulfire, there's a lot of cards that he has that could have taken out this Drake. So let's take a look again at Trump's hand here. What does he have? He has a Cleave that's completely useless. He has Inner Fire. That's no different than the turn before. He has Tinkmaster. If it becomes a 5/5, that's bad. Let's see. Nothing here looks all that pleasing, to be honest. The Rag and Alexstrasza, of course, are a few turns off. And, you know, Trump may just attack and armor up and pass the turn. I don't see a whole lot of other options for him right this second. And yeah, it looks like that's exactly what he's going to end up doing. So, let's see what Realz gets. I think we're probably going to see a Shadow Bolt plus attacking with the Drake this turn. I think that's a great play. And of course, he could draw another card. Let's see, 3, 6... Wait a minute, I'm bad at counting. Okay, 6 and then 9. So, yeah, he could attack in, Shadow Bolt, and draw a card. Because he's not too worried about health right now. There's definitely no way for Trump to really kill him next turn. A Siphon Soul. Okay, so he utilizes his full mana and gains some life there, keeps the health on his Drake, which is completely fine, and hits him for 4 more armor, and that's a very good thing, because if Trump had been able to get a little bit more armor, the Shield Slam, just with 1 more armor activation, would have killed off this Twilight Drake. Well, of course, even without it, if he had attacked into the other Drake, it would have taken damage, and he could have Shield Slammed it as well, but right now, looking at Trump's hand, there's no really good play here. Armoring up, reasonable. Like, yeah, there's just not a whole lot going on for him. And the problem is, when they get out the quick Twilight Drake or the quick Mountain Giant, then the Shield Slams become much less powerful. If they just don't have those in their opening hands, then Shield Slams become mega powerful because they just don't attack you much, and you get like 10, sometimes 20 armor. Okay, so Sylvanas comes out. Now, this lets him utilize his Cleave if he wants. Of course, he does have his Tinkmaster as well. We'll see in just a moment what he wants to do with this. A lot of times you look at it and you say, oh, you know what, just Tinkmaster that immediately. But that's not necessarily the case. The Tinkmaster, you might want to save for a little bit later on when you have minions on the board. Because he's not afraid of the Death Rattle right now. It might just become a 5/5, in which case the Tinkmaster was kind of wasted and just became a silencer, whereas against something like a 9/9 Giant with Taunt, he's going to be a complete hero and a game wrecker. Thing is, there's not any good way for him to deal with this. It looks like, okay, he's going to Shield Slam plus Cleave, but this still leaves a 4/7 Drake out there, which is a bit of an issue. Luckily, he's still at a high life total. He's made these cards work out for him a little bit, but the card advantage of Realz is truly kicking in. Look at this gigantic hand, plus he has a better board position. The thing is, in control versus control, Warlock does very well, just because you're not going to be dealing a lot of damage to them very quickly. And it looks like he's going to possibly set up some taunts here. Oh god, that's so painful, because at this point, Trump's probably sitting there thinking, you know, I can still take this, but with 2 gigantic taunts coming out, that's going to be a lot harder. And I do hope he taunts both those. I see no reason not to taunt them. So we'll see in a second here. I think the only thing he could be considering other than that is silencing one of them so that he can attack with it next turn. But I gotta say, I like the taunts. You never know. They could be playing something like Grommash, and suddenly the game swings grossly into Trump's favor with a huge amount of damage. This time, it's going to be a Rag. And if it does hit, okay, that's a direct hit to the face. So he's down to 8 health, and that could be an issue. But he does have Siphon Soul in hand. So that's obviously going to be very, very nice. Bring it up to 11 now. He has to play a taunt, because right now, Inner Rage plus Grommash is a win. So hopefully Realz figures that out, and it looks like he will. There you go. And that's going to make it a lot harder on Trump here. Where does Trump go from here? Ysera? Yeah, I think that this is actually a reasonable play. Like, if he gets Ysera's Awakening. That is a really good draw. What's he get? Dream. Now, Dream is really good in control versus control because a lot of your minions are so high in mana cost. But if we look at this particular scenario, Dream isn't going to be all that good. Like, the Drake will come down basically as strong as before. The Watchers only cost 2 mana, so does the Sun Fury, and you obviously don't want to bounce the Sun Fury. So the Dream not going to do a whole lot for him at this moment.
I wonder.
Of course, Alex Straza, we look at that, completely useless here, as the Warlock is below 15 health, and he's above 15 health. Looking at Realz' hand, probably going to want to silence here. That's pretty obvious, right? Silence the Ysera. Get her out of there. You don't want her drawing Dream cards every turn for Trump. Ysera, like, maybe the most powerful endgame card in the game, as she produces card draws, plus she's huge. And or the cards she makes you draw are amazing for such cheap mana.
So many.
Just really going over all of his options here as well. Now, he does have a possibility to deal a lot of damage, because he does have a couple Iron Beaks, he does have a couple Soul Fires, and that means that he could actually deal like 12, he could deal 20 damage pretty simply this turn. In fact, he could deal, wait no, 22, he could actually deal 25 this turn. It is possible. If his Soul Fires don't get rid of the wrong cards, he has 25 damage. Possible lethal here, but of course Soul Fires, you never know if that's actually going to occur. Do you want to use both your owls to try that when Ysera's on the board? Especially when you know, he's got a really good hand, but Warrior can be pretty scary to deal with. And he still has that possible lethal. Right? I'm not crazy. 12 plus 2, 14, plus 8, plus 3. Yeah, that's 22. Yeah, that's 25 if he does it. Okay, so... Okay, this is a little bit different than what I thought we were going to end up seeing, but this actually worked out extremely well. So instead of just silencing, he takes out Ysera and still has a really, really full board. Now, this is the type of situation in which you really, really, really want your Brawl. And in fact, some of these decks try to run 2 Brawls, but 2 Brawls a lot of people feel is overboard. Because in situations against a board full of minions, you don't want to have 2 of them, and even in control versus control, a lot of times you don't have 2. But in this exact situation, you know, that's something you might want to have. Now, okay, you know what I would really like here? Sylvanas Charge, and then maybe a Whirlwind. Because then you can kill her, the 2-1, the 4-1. He could actually... no, I don't... Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Oh, never mind. That was really good, Trump. Alright, I was looking at some other things. Great move by Trump. There it is. Lethal for him. And Trump starting the comeback. Alright, so Trump actually grabbing some quick lethal there. Blew my mind there for a second. I was trying to think of all the other situations where he could trade a Sylvanas out and clear the board. Which actually I think he could have cleared the board and stolen one of his opponent's minions as well. But of course, the kill very much better there for Trump. Saw it pretty quickly and went with it against that very low life Warlock. Now, Realz has played very, very well so far. And Trump's on his last deck. So even though Trump won that game, we can't say for sure that he's going to end up taking it. But obviously he's very good with Warrior Control. Let's take a look at what Realz is playing. Now it looks like Realz right now is playing a control deck with Druid. And some of the interesting things we can see in here, a Youthful Brewmaster, an Acidic Swamp Ooze. Let's see. He has Tink, of course. He has Keeper of the Grove. An Azure Drake. Black Knight, of course. I really like this. I love the addition of this single Youthful Brewmaster. That, in the late game, can make a gigantic difference here. You look at, for instance, Acidic Swamp Ooze. You could bounce him back against a warrior deck so you can get the Gorehowl later on after killing a Fiery War Axe. You can bounce back the Tink Master. So you have 2 Tink Masters. That's amazing because you're really looking for his ability and not his body. Of course, you can always bounce back those Keeper of the Groves. You can always bounce back the Black Knight as well, or even an Ancient of Lore in the late game to be able to draw more cards or gain more life or anything like that. So I love the addition of this single Youthful Brewmaster. I think that's really clever, and definitely a difference from a lot of the other Druid decks that we see running around currently. So props to Realz for that. Whereas Trump, we already know this deck pretty well. We saw it in action the last game. He played it very well. We'll have to see. Can he take out Druid? Definitely a possibility here. As I said before, the Warrior control deck has chances against all other control decks. So we'll have to see how well he plays it and what these starts are like. So let's go ahead and get into game number... Well, this is game number 5. And see if Trump can continue this comeback. Alright, it looks like Trump right now. Let's take a look at his opening hand. This is actually a pretty reasonable opening hand. You do like those shield slams a lot of times early in the game in control versus control, because you're oftentimes building up armor. But if we look at Realz' hand, he has like kind of a semi-aggressive opener with having the Harvest Golem as well as the Novice Engineer. So we'll have to see exactly how much armor Trump can gain early on in this game. But neither hand looking like it's going to crush the other at the moment. Now, the Harvest Golem just coming down, just building the board positions at the moment. Probably see the Twilight Drake dropped out now. We'll see here. I think he might be considering doing something such as a slam to draw a card and then trading with the Novice, but I do believe that Twilight Drake is a bit more solid of a play. You love to get that Twilight Drake out as early as possible. Get it, you know, it has such durability with the high health, and really does allow you to control that board for quite a while. Now, if we look at Realz' hand at 3 mana going up to 4, the Keeper of the Grove would take out Twilight Drake so quickly. Like, he would just silence it and then attack it with his little Novice Elf. So that, I do believe that's what we're going to see here. Like, that is an amazing situation for him, because then he has a Harvest Golem and a Keeper of the Grove out against just a Novice Engineer. And that is like some insane board advantage. This is a very strong position here. In fact, even takes that out, as he should, just getting rid of anything that's out there. Now, Trump has to look at this. What does he do? Now, he doesn't want to do something stupid like double shield slam to take out one of these minions. He could take out either one completely with that. I like this play. Slam, draw a card, and really, it doesn't even matter what he draws. He's probably just going to armor up over after that. But he has the health lower and easier to deal with. And in fact, he doesn't want to slam right now, which is fine. But that is going to make it a little bit harder for him to deal with these things in the future. And this is kind of some beatdown right now for Realz. He's got a very strong board, especially with that Harvest Golem being buffed up. And looking at Trump's hand, well, you know what? He can actually take out a couple minions right now if he wants. It looks like he's going to drop Sylvanas. And I really do like this play, because with Sylvanas out there, he can do funny things like kill his own Sylvanas. Like, he might want to slam his Sylvanas to draw a card and then attack into, I don't know, the Keeper perhaps, or perhaps the Golem. And then he can easily steal 3/3 or a 3/5. But this second Keeper of the Grove was drawn the turn before. So kind of a lucky move there from Realz. And being able to silence that right away, that has to be frustrating for Trump. But this is still a 5/5 body. So, you know, he can still do stuff with it. He can still remove a minion or something. And if we look at what's in the hand, this could... you don't really want to swipe with an Innervate. No, there's not a whole lot, actually. I would just let that 5/5 run into and then kill it next turn. Possibly with a swipe, possibly with something else. Looks like he wants to go ahead and play possibly his Wild Pyromancer. The thing is, Wild Pyromancer, you don't really need it against the Warrior control. It doesn't do much against it, so you just kind of count it a lot of times as a 3/2 minion. Sometimes the extra damage he outputs from spells can be helpful, but in a situation like this, where your board is so full and theirs is not, he's mostly just going to be a 3/2 body, and oftentimes you'll actually sacrifice him for using a spell, unless he just happens to add exactly the damage you need to make something fancy. So he's going to throw that out, and that's just some great board position for him. And this is the type of situation where you really do want to go for the, whatchamacallit, the brawl. course, no brawl here for Trump, unfortunately. Now, he does have 2 shield slams. Ooh, and the cleave? That's not bad. But it can only lethal one of these minions, so probably not going to be the most useful thing in the world for him. But I would definitely suggest at least 1 shield slam being used this turn. You know, he's still at 21 health, basically. But that's going to change very quickly against such a huge field of minions. Especially if there was, like, Innervate Cenarius, that would just be lethal next turn. So he's got to watch out for stuff like that as well, as a lot of players are using Cenarius now. And we haven't seen any Innervates yet. So looks like he's just going to go ahead and take this one out as well. Could end up using a Cleave and hoping to get one of these 2 minions. Let's see. If he gets the Pyro and the Damage Golem, that's very nice. But, okay, he gets one of them. And at least that's pretty good. So, taking a look at the hand of Realz. Yeah, of course, not a bad play at all to play that Druid. Probably going to sacrifice his 2/2 into this Sylvanas to just take it out and then attack for 6. And, you know, just the board advantage that he has right now. That, plus he has a similar amount of cards in hand. This is a very nice situation for Realz. He's looking to possibly close this out against Trump with a 4-1 score. Now, we'll see about that in a minute. Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I'm thinking, let's see, 3 plus, it's 10, 12, he can deal 16 this turn pretty easily. But that's not quite enough, so I'm going to take it a little bit slower here.
I have no time for games.
And he actually plays his own Sylvanas. Alright, very interesting. Now, this Sylvanas can be taken out this turn. You know, he can do things like Armor, Shield, Slam, Whirlwind, and Slam all together. Now he has this Inner Rage as well. Thing is, he hasn't really bought himself enough time for his Gadgetzan. He's at too low of a health and too poor of a board position to rely on Ragnaros or Ysera later on. He really needed to hold off this board a bit better, but it just didn't go his way this time. So this is a hard situation, and in fact, I feel like, probably just slam the Sylvanas to start. He's going to slam this one, and this is going to allow the Whirlwind to do a lot more. Now, here's something interesting. Do you Whirlwind right now and then Cleave? I would say, yeah, definitely, because you want to... The Cleave has to have at least 2 targets. You don't want the Cleave hitting the Argus, because the Argus is at 1 health, and you have this Whirlwind in hand. Now, that's 3... But that is... Yeah, that's 3... He might use the Inner Rage instead, because then he can armor up and shield slam as well. But no matter what, it looks like there's going to be a minion left on this board. And in fact, I'm counting it up. Hold on. Yeah, Whirlwind. No, this is actually... He has to gamble a little bit with the Cleave, doesn't he? He needs the Cleave to hit the Sylvanas, because he doesn't quite have 5 damage there with the mana he has, because he has to armor up to get the Shield Slam to be effective, and that's 3 mana right there. And then he has 2 more. Gets rid of 1. I don't think that was actually correct right there, unfortunately. Because he can deal 3 more damage right now to Sylvanas, and that is it. And that's going to leave 5 coming in at him. Yeah, he needed actually a lucky Cleave, unfortunately. So that's going to be a little bit more damage than what he really wants to take, and it's going to make it harder for him to play any minions next turn as well. Just because Sylvanas is going to be out there next turn. So it leaves Sylvanas down at 2 health, and that's going to be easy for him to take out, because of course Shield Slam plus Armor Up is going to give him enough to kill it off. Let's take a look. What does Realz get here? Okay, he has 2 swipes and a Druid of the Claw. So right now he can deal like 13 this turn and then 4 the next turn pretty easily. Of course, he'll probably save the swipes. You can always just throw those at their head later on. I think a charge on this guy would be appropriate. And he does, in fact, charge him. So bring him down to 7, man. This is, and in fact, even 6. This is kind of brutal. Trump, I don't think he really has any outs here. Because, yeah, there's double swipe. He'd need to armor up this turn. Like, I don't know, Gadgetzan. He'd need like perfect draws off Gajazan. Yeah, he'd have to play Gajazan, use Inner Rage, draw an Inner Rage, use Inner Rage, draw a charge, use charge, draw a shield block. If he does that, then he lives through the next turn. Anything other than that? Yeah, he's dead. So we'll see. The thing is, you can't count on your opponent having double swipe in hand. But he knows that there's at least hero power, and probably a swipe as well. And the thing is, there's always claws in there as well, and ugh, gross situation for him. He may try a Tink Master here. If he tinks the 4/4, then at least he has a 50% chance it becomes a 1/1, and thus kind of weak.
I got the best deals anywhere.
Well, that is actually going to be it. That's going to be game. And Realz going to dethrone Trump. Really good play from Realz, I have to say. Especially with those 3 wins from the Warlock deck. And Trump sees that, unfortunately, he is dead. And that is it. GG. Alright, well, Realz ends up taking it, and he takes it in a pretty convincing manner, 4-1 over Trump. A really nice Warlock deck, a control Warlock deck. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. Sad to see Trump go there. And that is going to be it for this iHearthU.com King of the Hill. I want to thank you for watching, and we're going to have to skip this 1 week. There's a patch coming out, and a bunch of us Hearthstone guys are going to Germany for another ESGN Fight Night. So we're going to have to skip, I think, possibly one King of the Hill. Or, no, wait, turn 2 perhaps? I don't know. We'll see. We're going to try to pump out as much content as possible, but travel, you know how that goes. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you check out iHearthU.com, a great site indeed. And once again, congratulations to Realz, the new King of the Hill.